Welcome to Off the Record with LegALLY at Law, Episode 2. Today we have guest Amanda Suranofsky, longtime friend and client of myself and my law office. Amanda has quite an interesting story here. Her case involves almost all of the systems that we have in the government, which include the criminal system, the CPS system, the custody system, and the civil system. So we're going to break those down today and go through them. But first, we're going to start about how her story unfolded. It's quite a alarming story. Many of you have probably heard of her story without knowing it. If you're from the Lehigh Valley area, undoubtedly you've seen in the news Dr. Jensen, Lehigh Valley pediatrician, who has been accused by several families, actually over 100 families, for wrongful accusations of child abuse against parents, which led CPS to take their kids away. So that's sort of how Amanda's story starts. So I'm going to let her tell you guys basically the story. I will help guide her through it. Obviously, guys, bear with us. It's a very traumatic situation. I've been dealing with Amanda for several years. I've actually represented her in all of her matters, so I'm very familiar with the case. So I will jump in when necessary. But Amanda, let's start by telling them the incident, and then we can talk about the legal stuff. But let's start by telling them what happened that very morning. I know I could recite it, but I want them to hear from you.
Okay. It was December 14th, approximately 5:30 in the morning, when I woke up to a thud on my floor. I woke up and I seen my 7-week-old on the floor and my 2-year-old in his bassinet. His onesie was zipped down, diaper was off. I looked at my 2-year-old and I asked her what happened and what did she do. I immediately called my sister. She didn't answer. I called the kid's father. He did not answer. I called their doctors, obviously. I mean, it was a weekend. And once the recording came on saying if it was an emergency to call 911, and that's what I did.
So, obviously, you're freaking out. You have a 7-week-old on the floor, a 2-year-old in a bassinet, and you were asleep, right?
Yes.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. You have 5 kids, and you're tired, right? You're a new mom, just had a baby 7 weeks ago. Dad's not here at the moment.
Working full-time, school full-time.
Yeah, so he's not there, and you're tired. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, so you hear this noise, wake up. I think any of us can relate to this. I have a daughter, she makes a noise, mom, what's the word? Mom senses sort of go off, and you're like, what the hell's that, right? So, okay, so you call 911, ambulance comes.
2 ambulances came.
Okay.
I want to say there was 2 or 3 police cruisers. I can't really remember. I did pick the baby up off the floor. He was coherent. He was making noises, easily consolable. He did not pass out at any point at all. He was eating. Everything was fine. Got to the hospital. I want to say it was around 6:30. They wouldn't let me back in the room right away. They had put me into a room where, so my grandmother had died years prior, and when she died, they put me in this room. And it's to tell you things like that. I don't know. It's like a conference room.
Sure.
So immediately, that's where my mind went to, was what happened from my house to the hospital, because he was alert and awake and he wasn't acting strange. So they finally let me come back in to see him. They had a neck brace on him. I was able to feed him several times. I was allowed to be alone with him. It took them, I want to say, almost 7.5, 8 hours to tell me what was wrong with him.
Okay, and during this time, where are your other 4 kids?
I called my sister then again on the way to the hospital. She had met me at the hospital, so she sat with my other children in a waiting room. And then they
were with your family?
Yeah, they were with family.
Okay.
Then the doctor came in, told me that my son had a brain bleed, so I lost it. I started crying. She walked out of the room. once I calmed myself down, I went to ask her if she could please explain this to my family, what was going on. So she did, but then it went from he had a brain bleed to then he had fractures.
Okay, so you're alone with your kid after you get to the hospital for, I don't know, 7.5, 8 hours, feeding him, loving him, doing the normal mom stuff, families with your other kids, and you're just thinking something may be wrong, but you don't know, and you're just there to check it out. Obviously, you know what happened prior. You don't actually know because you were asleep, but you knew that you were asleep and your 2-year-old was in the bassinet, and you assumed that maybe something had transpired between that. You know that
Yes.
you didn't do
Yes.
anything at that point.
Yes.
So, they say he has a brain bleed. You're clearly upset about that, as any parent would be, I think. And then he maybe has some fractures. They're telling you from potentially falling out of the crib is probably where your brain, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, goes to, because, we assume that he fell out of the bassinet because he was on the floor when he picked him up.
Yes.
So clearly an accident.
Yes.
Make that very clear that this, obviously, the 2-year-old did not intend to harm her brother. I know the 2-year-old. She is no longer 2, obviously, but I know her very well. She would not hurt her brother. And obviously, Amanda was asleep, so this is a clear accident. Anyway, so after they tell you this news, which is heartbreaking to you as mom, and you calm yourself down, what transpires?
They tell me that they're going to take him up to PICU to observe him, and prior to going up there, he had gone for a CAT scan. Once transferring him to PICU, they were going to do an MRI. So I just said, okay. I had gone home, and by the time I got back to my house, so I could gather, because my family was taking my kids, all my other kids were there.
Sure.
At the hospital, and we were all, my family and I and my kids, we were in and out of the baby's hospital room that he was in. So I had gone home so I could get my family some of my kids' clothing. By that time, Children and Youth had already called me, and she said she wanted to speak with me, to come to my house. I said, okay, whatever. She came to my house. I had to sign
Safety plan.
the safety plan, I think it was, but I also had to write down what happened, which was fine. I didn't mind that. So I got back to the hospital after speaking with her, and he was already transferred up into PICU. They came in the middle of the night. They did an MRI on him. And then they had said the Child Advocacy Center wanted to speak with me, the doctor, and I told them flat out, well, I don't want nothing to do with Jensen. I already knew about Jensen and what she was capable of, and I told them several times, I don't want Jensen near me, and I don't want Jensen near my son. I don't trust her.
So, Amanda, let me ask you this. When they tell you, Dr. Jensen is the head and she's going to look at your son and talk to you about this incident, how do you know that she's what we would call a bad egg doctor? Just by Googling, or you've heard about it?
Googling, hearing about it. I mean, it's everywhere.
Okay. So you're very adamant that you don't want this woman touching your son.
Yes.
So in that case, what do they tell you?
They said, well, if she's the doctor on call, she's going to see him, and I made a big deal about it. No, I don't want her around my child. So then she ended up not coming, and it was Dr. Doshi. So this was in the morning sometime. The doctors had come in, and they said he's doing really well. We would like to release him. We can't due to the doctors needing to see him. His vital signs, everything was fine. Passed his eye exams, literally everything he passed. So they said they were going to transfer him to the regular children's hospital part of Lehigh Valley Cedar Crest. So they did, and then Dr. Josie came, and she pulled me into a room, started asking me a million questions. Where do I live? Where am I working? Am I married? Just anything and everything under the sun. And then the last question, or she asked me what happened. I explained to her. I said, I woke up around 5:30 to a thud on the floor. My Baby was on the floor. 2-year-old was in his bassinet. That's all I can tell you.
Sure.
But there's nothing more. I don't know what happened.
Of
I was
course.
asleep. So she said, "Do you have cameras?" And I said, "No, and I should because I know you aren't going to believe me." And with that, she said the only way this could have happened is in a very severe car accident, or as if you shook and slammed him and you're not allowed around your kids. You need to leave. That's when I left.
And that with that is what would start a 5-year continuing, honestly, battle that Amanda has faced, which is actually heartbreaking because it's an accident. But more importantly, it should have never happened because it was an accident. And because of this decision of this one doctor, Amanda did not see her kids for 4 years. One, she still does not see, and had to face the criminal justice system. So the story gets worse, if you guys can believe it. Unfortunately, she has to deal with her kids being ripped from her at the hospital for something she did not do intentionally. Obviously, Amanda did not abuse her child. You heard her story. And then her kids are removed. So, Amanda, after you exit the hospital without your children, and I want to be clear here, guys, for our viewers, it's not just the child that was hurt by accident. It is all 5 of her children were removed from her care. So you leave the hospital and the kids go various places. We don't have to really get into too much detail about where they go. And then a few months later, and I'm speeding up this story just a little bit because we only have an hour here. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want tissues? No. Are you sure? Yeah. I can get them.
That's okay.
All right. So I can do this part if you want. So Amanda, approximately 6 months later, she would know the date better than I would. She gets notified that she is now being charged with aggravated assault and related abuse charges on her child. Guys, I want to be clear. This is felony charges, multiple felony charges, and the victim is allegedly her son, and they are claiming, the district attorney's office and the police are claiming that Amanda shook her child. Her story when she talks to the detectives is the exact same story she told you here today, is the exact same story she's told me, is the exact same story she's told the doctors. She has completed urine tests. She has completed forms. She has offered polygraphs. She has done all of the things, and that didn't really get her anywhere. So after she's charged, she turns herself in, as all criminal defendants must do. Her bail was set at an extremely high amount. Fortunately for her, she was able to have friends and family scrape up the money and post her bail. She was incarcerated in the Northampton County Prison for approximately 14 hours. When she was in there, she has often described it to me as probably the worst time of her life. She said it was disgusting, it was dirty, and it was vile, and people were treating her like shit. And I mean, I think as I hear Amanda's story, and I've heard it for several years, and me and Amanda are very close, we talk about this all the time considering I represent her, it's crazy to me that the decision of one doctor has now led Amanda at this point in the story behind bars. She has 0 prior record. She has never had a speeding ticket. She has 5 children. She's a good mom. She works full time. And because an accident occurred in her house and a doctor deemed it child abuse without any further investigation, she is now locked in a cell. I want you guys to realize that, because that could happen to any one of us. It could happen to me. It could happen to you. It could happen to a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, a pediatrician, a homeowner, anybody. So after that occurs, she is released on pretrial services for what would be a very, very long time until she faces trial. So at this point, guys, I'm not involved in her case. She is assigned a public defender who she is dealing with at the public defender's office. She then finds out that I have been transferred to her case. I was a part-time public defender at the time. and for a period of 5 years while I ran my own practice. And I got a call from our chief public defender, and she said to me, "Allie, I need you to take over this case. It's a bit brutal. The facts are hard to hear. I think you can win it. I need you to take over this case. The current public defender is moving units." And I said, "Okay, that's no problem for me. Send me the file." So she sends me the file, and I start reading it. And I only have the police report, which says the child fell and the defendant is suspected to have shaken the child. And my first initial thought was, oh my God, who could do this to their kid? And I don't know how we're going to beat this, but let me see what I could do. So Amanda, apparently, she could probably tell you this story, finds out from her old public defender and our current investigator that she would be switching lawyers. So Amanda, why don't you tell me about that?
So I actually found out that...
Oh, that's right, on the docket. Yeah.
I found out because of the docket. I went and looked at my docket, and I seen there was a change in attorneys, and I lost it. I was really upset because I had just gone through 2 surgeries, and I was like, what is going on? Because my trial was supposed to come, and again, my trial was getting pushed back, and I was like, what is going on? So then I called the public defender at the time, and I was like, what's going on? Well, like, why didn't you tell me? He was like, I'm sorry. You know, I know things are rough right now and you have a lot going on. I didn't want to make things worse. So, and then he let me know that you would be taking over, and I don't remember if he said for me to give you a call or if I called your office. I don't remember which it was. I think you had actually reached out to me.
Yeah, I think so, because I had met with that public defender and our investigator to, get the facts. And then remember we met at the cafeteria.
Yes, we did. I think he introduced us at one of my court hearings, and he said that you were going to be taking over.
Yeah, and then we sat down at the cafeteria in the courthouse, and we met, and we preliminarily went over what we were going to do. And it was maybe a 15-minute meeting. Yeah. It wasn't too difficult. So after that, there is ongoing CPS proceedings, and Amanda has a court-appointed CPS lawyer who basically is just going through the motions because there's not much he or she could do because the criminal case was pending. So as long as the criminal case was pending, CPS was sort of at a lull because until we had some finality of, are you going to go to prison? Is this going to be, are we going to get an acquittal? What's going to happen here? The kids were not coming home. So
at one point, they tried to terminate all their rights.
Yeah, but I wasn't involved in that.
No, that was right before you got involved. I want to say like 2 or 3 months before you got involved, they were just going to terminate their rights. And the public defender that I had prior to you, he had to go in there. And it was like a really big show. I mean, they weren't happy about it, but how can you terminate somebody's rights? Like they just wanted to terminate rights, and that was it.
Well, and during this time that your criminal charges are pending, you're not seeing your children.
No, I was seeing them. I just wasn't allowed to be alone with them. So when I was seeing them, it was at the county. Mind you, this happened December 14th of 2019. The entire U.S. was shut down of March of 2020.
Because of COVID.
Yes.
Yes.
So then they charged me June 17th. So I wasn't allowed to see or speak to my kids from June 17th all the way up to, I want to say, September 23rd or 24th. I don't remember the exact date.
Sure.
Where they then said I was allowed to have phone conversations with my children. And I would be, once the county opened back up, that I would be allowed to go to visits again. And then I would just go to visits at the county when,
when they scheduled them.
Yeah, when they were scheduled. My kids would show up late. If I would have showed up 15 minutes late, they would have canceled the visit altogether. But there was times when the kids didn't get there due to transportation from the county 20, 30 minutes after, and they would be like, oh, well, there's this and that going on. And like, I had to be understanding for them. And then when I was able to finally see my kids again, They wanted me to wait a week. And I said, no, I haven't seen my kids in how long? Well, why can't you just wait? Because, would you? No, you wouldn't. They didn't.
So, just so the viewers know, Amanda's not, the incident occurs in December. Amanda's not charged till June. So, from December till June, her kids are home with her. No, they're gone. They're gone. That's right. Subject to the hospital. That's right. So, they're gone through CPS, but you didn't get hit with the criminal charges.
I didn't until June 17th of 2020.
That's right. And then, all right, so let me think. Let's talk about, all right, so you're having supervised visits with the county. COVID puts a danker on everything. Finally, you get your supervised visits at the county. You get your calls. At some point, does those visits change?
Yes. Shortly after you became my public defender, they did. We went in, had my bail conditions revised that I could have visits out of county, because everybody at that point, I want to say you became my attorney in 2022, right?
Yeah.
So
no, 2021.
Was it 21?
Yeah, I think the end of 2021. I could be wrong.
Well, I know, like, shortly after you became my public defender,
you revised your bail. I remember that.
My bail was revised. And then we went back because they had me doing drug tests every month, twice, which I didn't care. They drug tested me they wanted me to drug test since day one. They got their drug tests.
Yeah, and what's wild to me is you're not charged with any drug offenses. You've never had a history of drug use. You have zero prior record, and it's $16 fucking, excuse my language, every time you got to piss in this cup and someone's staring at you, taking down your pants while you're peeing in a cup. I don't understand. It's like a county money racketeer. I don't get why they're making you do this. It's not like you're charged with DUI or possession of drugs, or I mean, this has nothing to do with drugs at all. Like, they search your house, everything. There's no drugs.
They did. They came and they searched my house. They took my cell phone. Didn't take any of my computers or anything in my house. They took my cell phone, though. And he went, so what they did, and I didn't find this out until Monday the 16th when we had court for them to put the order in to remove my children from my care. That's when I then found out they changed it to a near fatality, and that's why they drug tested me.
Yeah, but to me, like, I just want to talk about this system for a second. Like, I don't understand the point of making you piss in a cup and paying $16 when this has zero. First of all, you shouldn't have been charged, but let's take that with a grain of salt. So you're charged. This is not a drug offense. It has nothing to do with drugs. There's no accusation from the police, from you, from anyone that you're high, drunk. You don't have a prior history of it. You work with, I mean, that's crazy to me. And the only answer to me is, the county wants to make their $16. And how many people, Amanda, as we sit here today, I know you're cleared of your charges and that's all over, and we'll talk about that, but how many people as we sit here today are in a situation similar to you where they're not charged with any drug offense and they're just getting $16? I mean, that shit adds up. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we changed her bail so she could have visits with her children that were not at the county, and then we also went in. This is when I became the lawyer, and we changed it that she didn't have to be urine tested anymore, because there's no reason for urine tests, and there's no reason that you need to be supervised in the county. So that's changed, that's modified. You get your visits, and we're doing that all the way basically through. So at some point, you know, guys, this goes on for a while because the scheduling of the court system, I have to wait until the judge says, okay, this is trial ready, and, you know, we're going to bring in 60 jurors, and, you know, we're going to present this. In the meantime, our investigator and myself and the former public defender get in contact with a doctor who is later going to be an expert witness in Amanda's criminal trial that basically says we send him all of the child's medical records. We talk to him on the phone. Amanda talks to him on the phone, explains the story. We send the police reports. We send the baby's x-rays, the CAT scans, all the things.
So that's one thing I want to mention too.
Sure.
Okay.
I know what you're going to say.
So when he went in, they did a CAT scan, an MRI. They did a
360 body scan.
Yes. So then after that, he was supposed to go back to the Child Advocacy Center to be checked out again to make sure he was okay. He went again. They did a body scan on him, but excluded his head. The part that they're trying to say that I viciously shook and slammed him, they exclude that part of the scan. My son didn't have any bruises on his body at all, anywhere.
I know. I've seen the evidence.
Nothing.
So, guys, like, they're excluding the child's head, and they're saying Amanda shook and slammed his head on the floor, and he has skull fractures. But they go to do basically a follow-up x-ray, and they exclude the head. Make it make sense, guys. It makes zero sense, right? So anyway, we send this all to the doctor, our expert witness that we call on. And he gets on the phone with me, with you, with our investigator, and basically says, there's not a shot in hell this is Shaken Baby. The child's injuries do not match Shaken Baby. There's no way it can be Shaken Baby. It's medically crazy to even say this was Shaken Baby. And so me, Amanda, and our investigator and our other attorney are saying, hallelujah, someone sees this, right? This is supported by science. It's not just us screaming up and down. It's someone agrees with us. That's a neutral party, right? So we pay them a small fee to look it over and tell if it's worth it. So finally, me and you and the rest of the team get a break, a relief.
I don't think I was able to be on that call. I think it was you and the investigator on the case, but you had told me about it, and it was just that relief that finally, like, somebody saw it other than
us. Yeah. So you're right. I think I text you.
You did.
And so, I'm like, thank God, this is a winnable case. I've believed you from day one. But when I can only scream as much as I can scream, right? When I need somebody neutral, somebody with medical backing, which I don't have, to come up and say that to 12 people that are going to determine your fate, right? Mm-hmm. So we present this to the DA's office because we have to give over our expert testimony in advance. And we're maybe a week before trial, and I get a call saying, you might remember better than me because I have a lot of cases, but would Amanda take a plea to probation, recklessly endangering a child? And I said, you're out of your fucking mind. I think those were the words that actually came out of my mouth.
They were.
I said, you're out of your fucking mind. She's not pleading to hurting her child. The probation, I don't even care at this point about probation, right? But the fact is, you want her to admit, to plea, to say, I am guilty of endangering my child. And that's not the case here. I said, so no, it's off. So I hung up. I called you because I have a duty to let you know. You're like, Allie, you're right. And I'm not doing it. Hang up. I'm like, all right. I don't know what, 20 minutes later, do I get another call? How about a plea to recklessly endangering a child with fines? And I said, dude, I don't think you're hearing me. It's not the fines or the probation or the potential prison sentence. It's my client is innocent, and she's not going to take any plea that involves hurting her child. I said, and the fact is, we're 3 days before trial. I can remember my office table. I mean, it is launched with papers and files. I have all my staff working around the clock. We're about to pick a jury. I'm on the phone with you every 5 minutes trying to get things sorted. You're about to come in to prep to testify. It is just what you see in a movie. Chaos, right? Organized chaos, but it's chaos. So then they call me back, and then they say, how about recklessly endangering another person with fines? And I said, let me talk to my client. So I called you, and you were having a hard time because you didn't want to plea.
I didn't want to plea, and I was more worried about my children coming back home. Well, that was my biggest thing. Like, if to plea to that, like, are my children going to come back home?
Right, and I think what the viewers need to hear is So let me cut to the chase. Amanda ended up pleading to endangering the welfare. She did not plea. She pled no contest, which basically is not an admission, to recklessly endangering another person, misdemeanor, with no fines, no probation, no prison, no court costs, literally nothing. So she has nothing but a misdemeanor on her record, and the basis for the no low contendere plea is that she was asleep, and by being asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, she potentially recklessly wasn't paying attention to her kids. That's what the plea is about, okay? But the reason that she pled, I don't want to use the word plea, it was a no contest, but for all purpose, the reason we ended the case there is it wasn't that Amanda finally realized she did something, or, there was some bad evidence that came through. It was that as part of this negotiation, we managed to get the other 4 out of 5 children returned home immediately. And that was Amanda's priority. So what happens is when I get this call and I say to the prosecutor, I say, listen, we'll agree to this preliminarily, but as part of this plea or this acceptance or the finality of this, my client needs her 4 children returned. He's like, well, that's not my problem. You got to call CYS. And I said, no, but it is your problem, right? Because the reason this is occurring is because of this huge shit show that you've created by charging my client. So he said, you call CPS. You gotta be fucking kidding me. So I'm like, this is not my deal. I want to go to trial. Like, I'm ready. Like, you want to get this over with.
I remember being at court because we had to do something.
Pre-trial.
And we went to court to our pre-trial.
Yeah.
And we were there. And then that's when they offered no fines, no penalties, and no probation.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying, no. Like, we were just going to go to trial. And then, I don't know if it was you that got in contact with children, because it took them a little bit, didn't it, to actually respond back to you?
Yeah, so I called them that night before. We met at Starbucks the night before and discussed it and said, listen, if we can get the kids home, we're going to bite on the apple. So, but I had already called them, but they didn't get back to me. So the next day we had that pretrial you're describing, and we get there and they still hadn't got back to me. And so when they offer this no fines, no court costs, nothing, basically just a conviction, if you will, which is no contest conviction, you tell me no. And I said, because there was no guarantee about the kids. And I said, okay, let's go. I'm ready to go. We'll pick a jury Monday. I think that was a Thursday, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, September 27th of 2023.
Yeah. So we go out to the outside. Attorney Rudis was also there, and we were outside, and you were crying, and I said, listen, Amanda, we got to go. I mean, we got to go to trial. There's no other option. And I think at that moment, Children and Youth had called me and said, we don't, if she's not found guilty of anything to do with the kid, or pleads guilty, or, does a no-low, we'll return the kids as long as you create the appropriate stipulations. For me, that means through custody court, which is not a problem, right? So I hang up the phone and tell you, and I run back upstairs to Judge Beltrami's courtroom, and I say, Judge, we don't need to pick a jury. Don't call 60 people in. This, I just heard back from Children and Youth. This is, so I said, could we do it tomorrow, as in Friday? So they didn't have to worry about bringing all the jurors in Monday. And he said, no, we'll do it right now. And so we went up and we did the plea, and you did it, and we left there. And immediately thereafter, right, when did you pick up? I know it was because it was school time, so you didn't want to hurt the kids by transferring their school and all of that. So, guys, this is 4 years later. I want to remind you this. 4 years later.
4 years of looking over my shoulder, being scared, like, to just walking out to nothing.
Yep.
Literally nothing. Like, everything was just over. It was the feeling. I can't describe the feeling. But so what we did was our the second youngest child, she was still in state care because she had been thrown around so many different homes.
She wasn't with your family.
Yeah, she wasn't with family. The state still had custody of her. but my 3 oldest children, they were in guardianship care with my family. So I got my second oldest and my third oldest home, enrolled in school. My oldest, I didn't get her home because her father lives in California, so he had to sign the court paperwork because we needed the wet copy in order to file. So he sent that back, and then she came home. All within a month they were home, the 3 bigger ones, and then...
We'll talk about the one that was still in state custody. So guys, I'll be clear about this. So what happens is, because I'm a part-time public defender, right? I'm paid by the county, and I do cases that are assigned to me. I'm no longer that, but that's sort of how this works. So Amanda comes to me as that kind of client, right? She's assigned to me. As soon as she's pled guilty or had a trial, I'm done with her. I don't ever have to talk to her again unless there was an appeal or, something of that nature. But, I would be done with her technically. I never had to call children and youth. I do not have to attend her children and youth proceedings. I do not have to attend her custody court. I don't have to literally do anything. Like, she would have to normally hire a lawyer. She's not afforded a lawyer for that. But because I felt so strongly about what Dr. Jensen and the relationship we had built over dealing with each other for sometimes 12 hours a day, multiple days a week, I just jumped into then put on my private hat and started becoming her private lawyer as well. So that's sort of why this works. So I just want to be clear that Amanda had me as a public defender, which I was paid through the county. But then when all of the criminals sort of went bye-bye, she would have been left, and this is a lapse in the system, right? She would have been left with no lawyer, right? And that's a shame, because I'm thinking about all these people, right, that probably had, these 100 civil lawsuits against Dr. Jensen, that probably had similar circumstances to you, wrongfully accused, and then it's like, oh, you can have your kids back, but you better go get a custody order, right? And I'm not trying to offend you, Amanda, but I don't know that you know how to type a custody order, right? Like, so, right, so, what would you have done? You wouldn't have called children and youth as part of your plea and said, I need my kids back. So that's why I'm saying that it's not to toot my own horn. It's that these people are at a disadvantage, because how is she going to know? They're saying, yeah, we'll give your kids back, but we need a custody court order. You would have been on Google, I'm sure, Googling lawyers, and they would have charged you $10,000 because you had 5 kids, $2,000 a pop. That's $10,000. And again, not trying to offend you, but who has $10,000 laying around?
Not me.
That's what I'm saying.
Not many people, especially when you're dealing with the court system for 4+ years.
So, and you lost your job because you're charged with felony offenses, right? So we didn't mention that, but that's another part of this collateral damage, y'all. So anyway, so I digress. So Amanda says, I need my custody orders. I type them up for her. We get them signed. We get them filed. So the three oldest come back. The one that is in state care, we have a court date for. And they say they need an offender's evaluation for my client and a protective parenting, which is very standard for children and youth. It's evaluation. So I say, Amanda, you got to do it. We got to get her home. And she says, okay. So she goes, she does the evals. They come back perfect. She's not an aggressive parent. She knows how to protect her kids. Her offender eval came back, no offense, right? So it's like, for me, I'm like singing from the hilltops, right? Because it is a perfect client, right? It's very rare we get that. But you have to remember, she didn't do anything wrong. So I just wanted to make sure that basically didn't get fucked over by the system. So she doesn't, right? Everything comes back glowing. We're thrilled. We go back to court, and I don't really know what transpired there. But what transpires is that she doesn't come home. The child does not come home.
She did come home.
But didn't they call you? Because Christmas Eve or...
No. So they let her come home December 22nd.
Yeah, but I thought they called me and said that somebody had given their notice, the family, and that she was going to be returned at the next court date.
No, that they were going to try and put her, I believe they were going to try and put her in foster care.
You're right.
And you were like, no.
You're right.
We're not doing that. And I believe the gal on the case too, he was like, no, like her other kids are home. Why can't she not go home? So what they wanted to do was give me temporary custody back of her, let her live with me, and then they were going to decide if they were going to close the case, and then they scheduled for when you were on vacation. And you were like, we can't do that date. So then we ended up doing it February 4th of 2024. And that's when the courthouse was closed down and we had court.
But what I want the viewers to understand is, so she wasn't returned home, but then the family that had her gave what we call a 30-day notice, which basically says we can't keep her anymore for...
I remember what happened. So the one family gave their notice, and then we had court, and we were trying to get a previous foster care parent to take her, and they were like,
yes,
no, not having it. And then my family got her back, and then my family was like, no, she needs to go home. That's what.
Yeah, and that foster, your family foster, wherever the hell she was, right, at this point, guys, and it's not that we don't remember, there's 5 kids and a lot of court dates in 5 years. I mean, you're talking 50, 60, 70 court dates, guys. I mean, it's obscene. So they call me. I remember I was sitting outside the Northampton County Courthouse. My phone rings from Children and Youth. And I'm like, who the hell is calling me? And like, it's literally like Christmas the 22nd. Like, and nobody's working, right? Because it's like the day before the Christmas holiday. They call me and they say, hey, do you think Amanda would take her child back? And I'm like, well, no shit. Why are you even asking me this? No shit, she's going to take her kid back. I'm like, well, the foster family gave her 30 days. It's a Christmas holiday. We were going to give her time over Christmas to see her kid. Can she just take her, until an unbeknownst time? And I said, well, I'm sure she would take her. I said, yes, when can she pick her up? I said, I'm not even going to call her and ask her because I know she's going to say yes. And so then I called you and I told you, and you went and you picked her up, and she stayed with you. And then we had that final court date for February 4th where they had closed her out, and then she was with you permanently. And so 4 of them are with Amanda. 1 of them is not with Amanda, which is what we are currently in custody court about. And we're not going to talk about that because that's an active litigation. So now Amanda has faced 30 years in prison, 5 kids taken for 4 years, 50, 60, 70, 80 court dates. Her job taken away, friends and family that didn't believe her. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Drug tests, sleepless nights. We could keep going on and on and on. But you get the picture, guys. And then sometime during this shitstorm of this million court dates between the kids and the criminal case, it is announced in the news that Dr. Jensen is suspected of child abuse allegations, false child abuse allegations. And Amanda and I had already knew this because Amanda and our investigator have done hours and hours and hours, probably weeks, honestly, months of research on Dr. Jensen. And Dr. Jensen was a doctor in 2 previous states with the same allegations. And then she continues to hop from state to state and take kids away for wrongful, false allegations of child abuse on parents. So I think this is, from a lawyer's perspective, this is the first time I felt very strongly about your case. But I think this is the first time a case had landed in my lap where I'm like, our system is fucked up. Right? Like a lot of my cases before you, and remember, I'm a young lawyer at this point. I'm probably 2 years in. A lot of my cases before very routine: DUI, drug possession, run-of-the-mill divorce, right? And not a lot of fucked up shit in the sense of the system has been fucking us over. But your case, I think, is pivotal in my career because I'm like, holy fuck. Her life was flipped upside down in 1 second. And it's still, to this day, right now, it's still upside down. And we will do another episode and let you guys know about this when it's resolved. But it's still upside down because of one decision of a doctor. And so Amanda does tons of research, right? Because we needed it for our cross-examination of Dr. Jensen for the criminal trial, had it went there. And there is articles, and I will link them here at the bottom of this. I mean, there is articles and notes and reports and court opinions and judges' opinions about her making this shit up. Okay, guys, it's not coming from me. It's not coming from Amanda. It's coming from multiple judges, multiple people, multiple families. So they sort of announce it all over the Lehigh Valley that she's basically suspected of this. She later resigns, and then Amanda and I file a lawsuit against Lehigh Valley Hospital and Dr. Jensen for what she did to Amanda. That's still an active litigation, so we're not going to talk too much about that. But we are in year, 6?
It'll be 6 years, December 14th.
We are in year 6, and Amanda is still missing one child and still has a civil litigation lawsuit that probably will not wrap up. My guess is for another 6 months to a year. And in addition, the trauma that she carries with her, and she can speak on this if she wants, but I know she'll allow me to, is something that I have never seen before. Quite honestly, it's alarming. She's done hours and hours worth of therapy. Her children have done hours and hours worth of therapy. But what they did to her never really leaves her. So there's times, where her child would fall off the bicycle, right? Routine stuff that her kids do every single day. And she will call me hyperventilating, say, I'm scared to take them to the doctor, Allie. What if they do this again? And that is not what a parent should have to go through when they fear that their child is harmed. And we should be able to trust in our medical system and our government system. And it is the exact opposite. And quite honestly, I have done, after Amanda's case, she was my first case, but after that, I've probably done, 20, 30, 40 Dr. Jensen cases after that. I call them Dr. Jensen cases, but I've done a numerous amount of them after that. And because of that, and me having my own child, I will tell you that I question what doctor I'm going to take my child to. I think about it a lot, and I think you all should too, because what has happened to Amanda is something that can happen to anyone. And quite honestly, I've seen it happen to, how many families only have hundreds?
That's a long list of.
Yeah, it goes on and on. It's insane. So,
you don't have words for it. It's
really I think
like...
I'm struggling because, it's hard to talk about because, and Amanda has been contacted by every single news outlet, major news outlet. She has been contacted by major podcast companies, Netflix, all the above, because her story is one that there is no words for. And I'm having trouble portraying it because I'm so personally and professionally invested in her life and her story and, unfortunately, her reality, because it is so fucked up. I don't know any other way to say it. And the fact that I am still your lawyer is disgusting in itself. And it's not that I don't love you. It's that you shouldn't need me at this point, at 6 years in, right? Like, as a friend, sure, as a, that will forever be. But as a lawyer, right, you shouldn't need me anyway. This should be done, right? And, we're still having conversations daily about, hey, we got to get this filed. Hey, we got to get this done. Hey, we got to prep this witness, da-da-da. And it's like, I feel like I've been doing this for
forever,
for 4 years with you. And it's just like, when is this going to end? And, the fact that one of the children is still not in your care, I don't know that I have words for it. And we are fighting the fight for that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I just want you all to realize that it's year 6 and Amanda still does not have one of her children in her care. And it's not from lack of effort, and it's not for lack of love, and it's not for lack of trying. Because I can tell you right now, we have done all of those things and then some. And then we have this civil lawsuit to sue the people that have made her life hell. But what she's going to get back, and I think this is another flaw in the system we can talk about briefly, is that what she's going to get back is dollars, right? And that's great. And she's going to take her kids to Disney World, and she's going to buy a new car, and she's going to be happy, and okay, great. But what it's not going to give her, is the 6 years and the 4 years that she lost with her children. I'm talking about lost birthdays, lost Christmases, lost first days of school, lost growing up, lost teeth, all of the things, right? And there's nothing I or anybody can do to fix time. And I think that's what makes this so fucked up, is that there is no legal remedy in the world. And I'm not just talking about your case, but, you hear Maya's case, right?
Yeah.
We've heard of all of these cases.
Yeah. You'll never get that time back.
Never.
And not only does it affect the family it's happened to, it affects everybody involved with it. It affects you, Allie.
Yeah.
It does. You had to see all of that. Now you question, where do you take your daughter? It affects anybody that's involved. And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, because I don't want to instill that fear in anybody. I don't.
Well, and I think you, Amanda, because I know you as a person, you take it to heart. It's like, Allie, we'll text about my daughter or something, and you'll say, Allie, I don't want you to be scared. I mean, it's not you that has instilled that in me. It's not you that because you've done anything wrong. And I think that's part of this, guys. Like, listen to Amanda and the way she talks. It's not that she's blaming herself partially because of the situation she's in, but this mess was created by Dr. Jensen and Lehigh Valley Hospital. And I will say that until the day the good Lord brings me home, because there is probably about 5 more things I care about than your case in my whole life. And that's how strongly I feel about it. And I think you know that very clear by now. But I will not shut up about this. I have never shut up about it.
She won't.
And I don't give a shit who fires me, hires me, or tells me to take this off, because it ain't happening. The world, particularly Lehigh Valley, our area where we're from and where we practice law and live, needs to know about this. And because New York and Florida, where she practiced prior, and again, I'm going to link all the stuff.
And Doshi practiced with her.
Yeah, Doshi practiced with her.
They wrote books together.
They basically warned PA. They said,
They did.
She done fucked up over here, and now you're going to hire her here, Lehigh Valley? What the hell is wrong with you? And also, how does this woman still have a medical license? And let's talk about this to wrap this up. She is still, to this day, speaking at child abuse conferences. Guys, she doesn't know what child abuse is. She has no idea. What she knows how to do is remove kids from loving, caring parents for either shit she made up or accidents. And I have one person in front of me right now, Amanda, and you've heard her story. But if you Google this, if you Facebook this, if you YouTube this, type in her name, guys, you will see hundreds of families from New York, Florida, and Pennsylvania about what she has done. This woman belongs behind bars in a mental institution. And quite honestly, her license removed 10 years ago. I don't know what we're doing here, but it is fucked up.
They need to be held accountable. Doctors who do things like this, I'm sorry. I can understand 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mistakes, it is not acceptable.
And I also think that, one of our dear friends who shall not be named, he made a proposition, and I think this is a good way to end this, is, if you're going to take a child away from a parent because of neglect, abuse, whatever word you want to use, you need 2 doctors to determine that this was intentional abuse or neglect. Not my child slipped at the pool. Not my kids got into a wrestling battle over a toy and broke their arm. Not my baby fell. Not, I could keep going on and on and on, right, about the examples I've heard. Not my kids fell on the spilled sandbox and smacked their head, and I wasn't watching them, right? I could go on and on about the examples, but there needs to be one doctor to assess this could be abuse and another doctor to back it up. And it can't just be, in my opinion, oh, I think. We need some evidence, right? Some actual evidence, a home visit, an x-ray, some kind of something, right? Because when we get our doctor to look at your report and we get Dr. Doshi/Jensen's report and we put them side by side, which we have done, they are totally, you're looking at two different cases, two different kids, two different body parts. I mean,
they didn't even have his age right in their reports.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So why we should get one emergency doctor and one non-affiliated, somewhere else doctor.
Well, they don't want to pay out the money. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, that's, I just think that's the only way to correct this, right? Because, and
100%.
There are families, guys, and I want to be clear about this. Me and Amanda feel very strongly about this. There are parents who abuse their kids and neglect their kids, and those people should be held accountable. Those people should go to jail. Those people shouldn't have kids. Those kids should be removed. But you can't just accuse somebody of that. You have a constitutional right to be a parent, and you have a constitutional right to have your kids in your possession, and they should only be removed in extreme circumstances or if they're in danger, not because of accidents. Anyway, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Everybody, this is Amanda Suranofsky, episode 2 of Off the Record with LegALLY at Law.